Mystic-Skeptic Media presents Raiders of the Unknown. Welcome to the Raiders of the Unknown podcast. We are researchers who dig through scholarship, archaeology, history, and the supernatural to find the discernible truth of some of the most enigmatic subjects in human history.
In 2008, I was privileged to interview the Yehiel Kaufman Professor of Biblical Studies at the Hebrew University in Jerusalem, Israel Khnol. His area of expertise is the Hebrew Bible and the Dead Sea Scrolls. He was in Houston to share about his research during an exhibit at the Houston Museum of Natural Science. The exhibit was called The Birth of Christianity, a Jewish Story. It involved ancient manuscripts including the war scroll found in the archive of texts known as the Dead Sea Scrolls. There were also ossuaries and other artifacts from the dawn of the Common Era. The main artifact on display was the Gabriel Revelation, a stone tablet found in the desert that provides us with insights into the development of Jewish mystical writings. This archaeological artifact is a historical document which attests to the messianic trends in ancient times.
Khnol, and I'm the Yehiel Kaufman Professor of Biblical Studies at the Hebrew University of Jerusalem. And I do research on the Hebrew Bible and the Dead Sea Scrolls. So these are the main areas of my research.
Okay. What was taking place at the time that the tablet was written? What's the history behind?
In my view, the tablet was written immediately after a great rebellion which took place in the year 4 BCE. This is immediately after the death of Herod, and the rebellion was against the regime of the Herodian family and the Roman army who dominated the land of Israel in this time. So this rebellion was crushed brutally by the Roman Empire, and I believe this is the background of the writing of this document.
Who created it and what was its purpose?
I believe it was created by followers of a messianic leader, of a group of people who followed him, and he was killed during his war against the Romans. And they reflect to the fact of the death of their messianic leader.
What is the relation between the tablet and the Dead Sea Scrolls?
It is not related very much. I mean, there is in the popular media it is called a Dead Sea scroll on stone, but it is not connected to this group. The ideology is different.
How similar or how different is this group from Jesus and his followers?
Well, it's predated Jesus and his followers. I believe that Jesus himself was influenced by this document.
And where do you see in the tablet where it mentions the Messiah? I know there's a debate about if it actually mentions a messianic figure.
We have the sentence where God is sending David. He's talking to David and he's saying to him, "My servant David, go to Ephraim and ask him to put the sign." And so we have here David, who is, the messianic figure of David, and also the other figure, which is known from Jewish sources, which is Ephraim, or the son of Joseph. In later Jewish traditions, we have two messiahs, the son of David and the son of Joseph, or Ephraim. So this is the first times that we see these two messiahs functioning together.
I noticed that it mentions also Michael.
Yes, the angel, yes.
Does the angel Michael represent a messianic figure, or is he
No,
separate?
angels are not messianic figures, they are angels. So Michael is there, of course. Gabriel is there, he is speaking at least in the last part of the document. But they are angels, they are not messianic figures.
Okay. In the Dead Sea Scrolls, it speaks of Melchizedek, and two messiahs, one royal and one priestly. Is this a similarity in the tablet?
Well, this is one of the points of difference because unlike the Dead Sea Scrolls, where we have a combination of the priestly Messiah and the royal Messiah, here we have David and Ephraim. So David is a royal Messiah, of course, but Ephraim is not a priestly figure. Ephraim, Joseph, these are not priestly figures. So this is one of the differences that we have. It's a different messianic conception, one which is not to be found in the scrolls.
So at that time, they expected for these two messiahs to come very soon, or later in the future, in the end of days?
Well, the expectation in this, we have a similar situation in the scrolls, and here in the sense that both groups expected the Messiah to come very soon.
Okay. Which book in the Bible relates the most to the tablet?
I would say Zechariah and Daniel.
Okay.
The two of them.
What new developments in our understanding of the first century can be derived from the tablet?
It's first century BC, the tablet, not first century. So we can see that at the end of the first century, that already in this time, this is around the time when Jesus was born, that the figure of a suffering Messiah, probably also the expectations that the Messiah will die and rise on the third day, already existed in Judaism before the messianic activity of Jesus. So he could rely on this expectation when he was claiming that the Son of Man is going to die and rise after the 3 days.
Where does the passage of rising after 3 days come in the Bible? Like, where does it appear?
It appears in the book of Hosea, but there it is a metaphor for the entire people of Israel. But it was taken later and applied to the Messiah.
Based on your observations, were Jesus and his disciples teaching anything different than the rest of the Jewish groups at that time?
Well, this very idea of suffering, dying, and rising Messiah was unique. I see it here in the Gabriel Revelation, but this is not to say that all Jews of the time knew about this concept. It was formed in a small circle. It was not known to many people. So when Jesus spoke about these ideas, people did not understand him because the general expectation was to a triumphal Messiah, not to a suffering and dying Messiah.
Was this an inner Jewish debate about the Messiah? What do you think was the biggest thing that brought about a division between the different groups?
There was a debate. I mean, different groups had different opinions. I think in the big step for separation of Christians, the Christian followers of Jesus from the rest of the Jewish people, the first step was their belief that the Messiah already came. So and they stopped to expect the coming of a Messiah to redeem Israel politically. This was, I believe, the first step toward the separation.
Do you agree with Professor Hensey that Christianity did not officially separate from Judaism until the 3rd or the 4th centuries when the creeds were written?
That's true, but officially. But I believe there were already steps in this direction taken. The first is the one I've mentioned, and the second was with Paul when he gave up the fulfillment of the commandments. This was a major act toward the separation, but not every Christian accepted it. There were those who did not accept it. So it was a gradual process. It didn't take place in 1 year, just during some time.
What happened to the group that wrote the tablet?
We know some documents which were influenced by it, like the Book of Zerubbabel and others. So I believe we are not speaking about just one copy of written in stone. I believe it was copied to scrolls and was read by different people. It had an important impact on following years, but I don't know what happened to the people themselves. I don't know.
Do you think that persecution from the Roman Empire or any form of anti-Semitism influenced this group to consider the coming of the Messiah at their time?
Yeah, I mean, it's not just... we can speak about, it's... they wanted liberty, they wanted independence. They didn't want the Romans to rule them. They didn't want the Herodian family to rule them because they were perceived as illegal rulers. And they wanted to go back to being an independent, liberated people.
Do you believe that every Jewish group suffered persecution from the Romans?
The people as a whole was, suffering. It was this was not so much unique only to Jews. I mean, all people which were subjects to the Roman Empire suffered in terms of taxes and other things, and so I don't think that the Romans had anything unique against Jews in the first stages, but they suffered like many other nations in this time.
What do you think about the people who have a different interpretation of the tablet?
Like whom?
Well, I read in biblical archaeological review that some people don't see a figure of the Messiah in the text. They think that it is just very broad. What would be your major point of contention to prove that it does speak of the Messiah and speak of
we have, as I said, David and Ephraim, which is, as I said, a very known combination of messianic figures. And in my view, also the term Prince of Princes is in this document. It is borrowed from Daniel. In the book of Daniel, it is not a messianic title, but I believe in this document it is a messianic title.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.